There was once a man who lived in a quiet countryside, a man blessed with land and wealth, with servants and flocks, and with 2 sons whom he cherished above all. The seasons turned gently on his home. Wheat golden in the fields, olive trees bearing fruit, vineyards heavy with promise. His house was a place of laughter and learning, of responsibilities balanced with the warmth of family. The elder son was diligent and steadfast, rising early with the dawn to tend to his father's affairs. He knew the rhythms of the estate. He walked the boundaries, counted the herds, saw to the workers, his every day an echo of responsibility. The younger son, in contrast, was restless. He watched the horizon and wondered what lay beyond their lands. Adventure called to him, the unknown cities, the distant songs, the sights and sounds that whispered through the tales of travelers passing by. One day, as the sun leaned low upon the fields, the younger son approached his father. There was a tremor in his voice, a longing that could not be silenced. "Father," he said, "give me the share of property that will belong to me." For a moment, the father gazed at his son, and a shadow crossed his face. Yet he saw the yearning in his boy's eyes, and in wisdom, he let go. So the father divided his property between his 2 sons. He set aside what belonged to the younger, flocks, coins, goods, and soon, everything was gathered up. Within only a few days, the younger son left his father's house. He ventured far from the familiar hills and gentle streams of his boyhood. He journeyed to a distant country, where the city gates opened wide and the people spoke in accents he'd never heard. At first, life was sweet. The younger son was greeted as a man of means. He spent freely, eager to taste all the world had to offer. He dressed in fine robes, feasted every night, and gathered friends about him. Laughter echoed in the halls, cups were raised, music drifted into the small hours. But with each coin spent, the wealth his father had given dwindled. And the days slipped by, gleaming and bright, until the purse finally lay empty. Then, as if the land itself sensed his need, a famine struck the country. Where there had once been plenty, now there was hunger and want. The fields yielded little, the marketplaces stood bare. The friends he had danced with vanished. The doors that once swung open now closed. Alone, the young man searched for work. His hands, once soft, grew calloused. In his desperation, he hired himself out to a citizen of that land, who sent him into the fields to feed swine. Day after day, he trudged through the mire, tending the pigs, their rough bodies pressing close, their snouts rooting in the slop. He was so hungry that even the pods the pigs ate looked good to him, but no one gave him anything. Ragged, hollow-eyed, and broken, he remembered his father's house. He remembered the servants, who had food enough and to spare. In the silence of his misery, truth dawned in his heart. "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare," he thought, "but here I am dying of hunger. I will arise and go to my father. I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired hands.'" So the young man rose, leaving behind the fields and the pigs. His feet ached. His clothes were torn, stained with mud and sweat. Yet with every step toward home, hope struggled in his heart, fragile and trembling. Meanwhile, far away, the father's house stood as it always had, watching the roads that led away through the fields and hills. Each day, the father walked out to look toward the horizon. His eyes yearned for a figure he hoped to see, his heart heavy with longing. Then, one afternoon, as the sun lay golden on the stubble of harvested fields, the father saw a figure far off, a silhouette familiar even in ruin. Dirty, bent with sorrow, yet unmistakable. The father's heart leaped. He did not wait for his son to come to him. Throwing aside all dignity, he ran like a man whose only treasure was returning to him. He ran down the road, arms outstretched. When the son saw his father, shame overwhelmed him. He fell to his knees, tears streaking his dust-caked face. "Father," he began, "I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father would not hear it. He lifted his son to his feet and embraced him, holding him tight. His voice rang out, strong and joyful. "Quick! Bring the best robe and put it on him. Place a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf, kill it, and let us celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." The house was filled with music and laughter, the smell of roasting meat. Servants bustled about, setting places at the table. The father's joy filled every corner, and the son, once lost, was restored, not as a servant, as he had begged, but as a son beloved. Now, out in the fields, the elder son was working as always. As evening settled, he heard the sound of music, the laughter that drifted on the breeze. Puzzled, he called one of the servants and asked what was happening. "Your brother has come," the servant replied, "and your father has killed the fatted calf because he has received him back safe and sound." At these words, anger flared in the elder son. He would not enter the house. He felt the sting of injustice, the pain of being overlooked. He stood alone, watching the light spill from the windows, unable to move forward. When the father heard, he went out to his eldest, just as he had gone out to the youngest. He pleaded with him to come in, to share in the joy. The elder son's voice trembled with hurt. "Look, all these years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me even a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has wasted your wealth with reckless living, returns, you kill the fatted calf for him." The father turned to his eldest with deep love. "My son, you are always with me. All that I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, for this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and is found." And so, in the warmth of that house, where forgiveness triumphed over pride and love over judgment, both sons stood before the father. One returned from the far country, humbled by hunger, cloaked in his father's mercy. The other, faithful but wounded, was invited to share in the fullness of joy. There the father's love stretched wide enough to hold them both, open and generous as the land itself, a place where the lost are welcomed home and the faithful are reminded that they have never left the father's side. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring Bible stories.